Welcome to another episode of Living with FASD. This podcast is for those who live with or support people who have prenatal exposure to alcohol and have their lives changed and more complicated because of it. It's also for those who just want to learn more about what FASD is and how it affects us. So, thank you for tuning in this week. I have not one but two guests today, as you can see, Miss Rebecca Tillou and Mr. Joel Sheagren, both of whom were at the conference in Seattle last week. And that is the topic for this episode, is the conference put on by FASD United and the Adult Leadership Collaboration of the FASD Changemakers, to whom we are so grateful because they have spearheaded so much research and they are making sure that there is no talk about us without us at the table. So I invited the two of you because you have unique perspectives. They're very diverse, one from the other, although you are united in your commitment to FASD and moving the needle forward in public awareness and understanding and acceptance. So, Rebecca, I've known you for a year and a half now. You graciously participated with me in my book project, Sip by Sip. Joel, I have not released the interview yet that I recorded with you, pending when the project is coming out, but I can't wait to get it out there because it was a marvelous conversation. But for the audience to be aware, you are both a parent and a producer for documentaries and soon to be a feature film about FASD and other neurodiversities. So I imagine that means you guys were not always in the same classes at that conference. So I'm eager to hear everything because, the costs kept a lot of us home. And we know, including myself with the audience, we know we missed out on a whole lot. So without any further ado, please fill us in.
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay. All right. So I was, I got there early, actually. I got there a couple days before the conference started because I am in a documentary that the CDC is going to use on social media and to educate educators and doctors and anyone that wants to learn about FASD. And the question that I was asked is about my diagnosis and what doctors and those in that profession can learn, like things that they need to know. So that would make our experience with FASD in a doctor's office easier. So something that I brought up was having multiple ways to remember to give us reminders of our appointments, which my doctors do already. So there's the little card, which I lose. There's the email, there's the text message, there's the sometimes like I'll add it into my Google Calendar. So and I just talked about ways to help doctors and nurses, with those of us with FASD. So that was what the CDC film was about. So that was on Tuesday, I think. And then Wednesday was a pre-conference. They all blend together. The days blend together. I did not go to a lot of the research stuff, the research classes, because I am an individual that lives with the FASD. They had a separate track that we could go to, and it was like a 9 to 4 gig, and it was led by the ALC Changemakers, and which was amazing. They had different things going on every day. I was on a panel the first day in that room, and I got up and just told my story but it was very brief because there were people in there. There was a 19-year-old, there were 20-year-olds in there. I'm 44 that had stories. And it took a lot of guts for them to get up to that microphone and
Mm-hmm.
share. But the only people in that room are people living with FASD,
Yeah.
with the exception of a couple caregivers that needed to be in there. So it was a safe space, and these just to hear these people's stories and their truths and where they came from, that was amazing. So I got up there and I was like, yeah, I'm Rebecca. I did Run Fast and I created it. And I didn't want it. Like, it wasn't, there's so many different people now that are telling their stories. So I backed off. I wanted others to get up there. Um, so that was amazing. The room, I was in it for a while. Um, and it ranged. I was telling Patti and Joel earlier, it ranged the ages from 17 maybe to like 72. There was one person that was 72. And just all these different perspectives. And it was also it was a cool experience. So I spent some time in there, and then I did get to go to a breakout session with Shannon. Oh my God. I'm
Ayabachi?
not gonna say her last name. Yeah, I'm not gonna say her last name right. Shannon I.
Yeah, Ayabachi, I
Yes.
think.
Thank you. I never
Yeah.
say it right. With her and Annette
I hope I didn't butcher it.
Annette Koonsman.
Kunzman. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So they did a presentation. I apologize, guys. I'm adjusting to like the time change and stuff still. So I sat in a breakout presentation with them where they talked about um, their plans that they are doing in California,
Mm-hmm.
where they have created this whole entire like this they've created this whole entire, I don't want to call it agency, like this
FASD now? That,
yes, thank you.
mm-hmm.
Yes, it's like this, it's called FASD now, and it's helping parents and educators, and they're getting out there and getting the word out, and
Mm-hmm.
legislation is a piece of it. And just to get it all to come to fruition, they went through what steps they took to get um, this organization to come to fruition. So I sat in on that and I took copious notes because I would love New York to have something like that, at least where I am. So that was an amazing breakout session. But yeah, hands down, I think my favorite was the room with all those living with FASD, because you could see everyone relax, because if someone, used earphones, they didn't have to worry about it. They just used their earphones. If somebody had to, take a break, they just took a break. So it was cool to see, and it was cool to hear all the stories and the
Mm-hmm.
successes and the trials. And so yeah, it was awesome. It was good.
Yeah. How about you, Joel? What was your experience like?
Well, I've been to other FASD conferences, but there was something sort of magical about this in terms of it was international. It was the adult leadership was, present. The morning sessions in particular, the format was that they led the discussions to nearly 600 people that were at the conference. So that was really unique. It's just, it's an adrenaline high when that kind of energy is there. So it's the first of that kind. The others have been here locally. And the first time I went to one, it was a similar experience with the Proof Alliance.
Mm-hmm.
They had a different name at the time, but there were 400 or 500 people there. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm not alone. So that was really good. It was, I just, everything about it was just really magical in terms of everyone there was for the same reason. This issue has so, you could use the word dearth,
Mm-hmm.
the extreme lack of
Mm-hmm.
awareness around the issue, and so it was just nice in that context.
Yeah.
Let's explode that. And part of my background and passion has stemmed out of adopting a son and not discovering what the root symptoms were until he was 14. And so and he's 21 now. So for the last 7 years, it's just been how do I learn how to parent my son, which has led to, as a filmmaker, oh my goodness, there needs to be awareness. And I think we could put out 20 films and we wouldn't have enough awareness.
Yeah.
So it's great to hear that the CDC is doing something. I know Justin and I, who's part of the ALC, and I have talked. He's doing a different type of documentary. We talked when he first got started. We talked very briefly at the conference. He had a lot of leadership aspects he was managing.
Which Justin?
He's
Shepherd or
married to the
Overlander?
researcher in Colorado.
Justin
Shepherd.
Shepherd.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, Justin Shepherd. So, I support all of the above, right? Years ago, I was involved with some of the early awareness of human trafficking, and there was a dearth of information at that time on that topic, and organization after organization, person after person got going, and now we're quite aware of it. And that's the sort of tipping point momentum that we need. So I was able to also take my camera and capture what became 7 more interviews for the documentary, which was just awesome. There was the connection between human trafficking, actually, and FASD that Audrey McFarlane out of Canada gave me an interview on. I interviewed Tom Donaldson about policy and those kinds of things. I had 2 epigenetic scientists that I interviewed. We can circle back to that. Dr. Cable on early childhood intervention, and Dr. Gilbert out of the UK on the criminal justice and how we go about interviewing. So we addressing the confabulation and the memory issues, and it was a fun exercise. All those things. Yeah. Here's 40 facts in a 1-minute story. And now to simulate this, how many of you remember 10 facts, right? And so coming back to it a week later in their research just really is important work. So I sat in on his class and then I asked him for an interview afterwards. So I was really very, very happy with those interviews to keep moving the needle forward. The documentary itself is a bit on pause because we're working on the feature film that we've spoken about. And we'll circle the ALC into that when the time's right.
Awesome.
So
anyway. Rebecca, I'm sure you're not aware yet. And most of the audience isn't either, because I haven't released the first interview I did with Joel yet.
No, I'm excited to hear about it when it comes to.
There's like a trilogy project coming where the first piece is a book that will be out in September, God willing. And the second piece is this feature film that will reach a different audience, right? It is for the entertainment audience, and will introduce people to FASD and other neurodiversities through that. And then that'll be followed by a documentary. And then CEUs come into play as well, making it attractive for professionals to participate in this project.
Oh, wow.
So,
And then to add to it, Carl Jung and I are working on a parent series book. And everything works around 2 main aspects. Embraced. I embraced my son. we embrace this issue. I'm going to cry. And then in the process of trying to figure out why there's such a lack of awareness,
Yeah.
part of that is not just the stigma and the alcohol, but it's also parents don't share their stories. They're tough. And so we stay away from our stories, rightfully so. So we've created a fictional character by the name of Zach. And so Zach is our representative of FASD. And he's the lead. He's the hero in the book. He's the hero in the film, and he'll be the hero in the documentary. And we weave Zach's story into our CEUs and into the parent book. So sort of like Star Wars does with Luke Skywalker or that sort of thing. So it's technically called transmedia storytelling, where you're telling the bigger story in different channels for different audiences. And we want to lead with entertainment because there is such hard ground with regards to a documentary even. And so with the documentary, we'll weave the interviews into a different part of Zach's story and tell a shorter part of his story. So kind of like you would a docudrama. If I were telling Rebecca's story and we wanted to do reenactments, we're just using a fictional character. And we've got a few supporting actors who have autism and ADHD that's misdiagnosed. And
oh my goodness.
yeah, and we're going to introduce Alex into the mix for the book series to highlight trauma and how it connects to everything as well. So we won't spend a lot of time on trauma until later in the book series, but we're telling people up front, Alex is a new character.
It's amazing. Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah, and it's just sort of, this has been a dream as I started to cast vision for the documentary so many years ago, and it all came out of wanting to help my son, right? How do I parent different? Because when I didn't understand processing speed, I would move towards him to get chores done that he wasn't getting done. And it would only ramp up the problems. And so learning to just put the statement in 5 minutes, can you do XYZ? You still get the pushback, but walk away. So counterintuitive. Don't be disrespectful, right? That's what I was doing. But I didn't understand it was processing speed. He needed time. And 9.5 out of 10 times he's up doing whatever chore I've asked. And so epigenetics connected to that is it's providing a better environment. And the more that you can provide a healthy environment, a safe environment, the epigenetics express themselves in a way. The alcohol primarily messes with the epigenetics. Epi is before the DNA, and there's a whole storehouse of those available that get expressed all throughout life. And so the healthier the environment, the more they're ready to come out and connect to other things. And so understanding simple things just in parenting, like processing speed and knowing how to work with that. There's science behind why our house has gone down in chaos, right? Not just because I'm parenting different, but he's feeling safer and more of his internal workings start to wake up.
So getting back to the original question.
Oops, sorry.
Squirrel. Which classes did you take? What was your experience at the conference?
Oh, it was fun. I sat in on what Alaska folks have been doing by way of film, actually. They've created a Uh, I think it's about a half hour sort of documentary, and it goes through the lives of several individuals with FASD and what structure looks like, what communications look like for them. And
Eight keys for adults with
Yes.
FASD.
yes,
Yep.
yep.
I saw
And
that too. I sat in on that.
so the morning sessions, everyone participates in, and then you break out. And in that, I went to the folks that are doing the 8 keys and what that looks like. And then I also was with Dr. Gilbert on his research with regards to the criminal justice system.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Any
and,
takeaways from that?
well, yeah, I mean, we all struggle with here's 40 facts in a 1 minute story. So give our kiddos some space. But just his research, he was really touched before he's even got has this off the ground, that he's already been able to be in court, and it's helped 2 kids not go to prison.
Yeah.
One sentence was super reduced, and the other one completely off the hook because of this research.
Mm-hmm.
Our kids need alternative
Yeah.
types of justice, right? And so his work is making a huge difference in that area.
Mm-hmm.
The interviews were sort of my little workshops, even though I wasn't in workshops. Um, so, because they were 40 minutes long
Mm-hmm.
or so, and I was getting specific information about childhood interventions that are successful, and the connection for FASD to so many other community things that we don't put the dots together, like homeless and job issues that lead to being taken advantage of on the streets and
Yeah.
those kinds of things. And so, and then the epigenetics, 2 of those researchers. And I push the envelope a little bit with that because that's kind of where I start to nerd out. And I'm not a
Right.
scientist, but I'm so curious.
Yeah.
I'm so curious, right? And
Yeah.
so, and I ask other epigenetic researchers to be in the room helping ask the questions. Because I can ask certain questions, but I don't know the science behind what to bring forward. And so that research is remarkable of what will come.
Mm-hmm.
It may actually supersede diagnosis, the diagnostic assessments. If you can take a cotton swab and do a cheek swab, five with $5 interventions, they're about 70% of the way there.
Wow.
They'll know if alcohol is involved prenatally.
Wow.
That's how powerful it is. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. I remember how excited I was to read an article that Ed Riley, no, Kenneth Jones was in. He was one of the co-authors, where looking at baby teeth, they could tell by applying a particular chemical to the tooth, they would know if there was prenatal alcohol. But, you know, and then I was so angered by that. It's like, what? Why is this not mandated in every pediatric dental office across the country? And of course, one reason is because it was a small sample and it needs to be replicated and peer reviewed and all that stuff. And the other reason is because it's a time limited dosing issue. Because I was jabbering on about this with Dr. Susan Rich on one of the prior episodes. And she's like, the alcohol exposure would have to be at the time when the particular tissues that later become the baby teeth are formed, kind of like, you know, day 17 through 21 for the facial features. So, so that wasn't quite as exciting as what I had hoped it would be, but a cheek swab, that's even better.
Yeah.
Because that can
Yeah,
be done at the pediatricians
just as standard routine.
or at the hospital when the baby's born.
Right. It's just standard
Yeah.
routine for health. And so in that we would be able to understand outcomes and
Yeah.
early interventions that are so incredibly important. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yep.
Of course, part of that is really combating the stigma and getting people on board with how vitally important early interventions are, you know, for a process that most legislators don't want to know about.
That
So,
has, I heard all sorts of politics in some of my interviews that like
okay.
that might be part of the process of why awareness is missing
Yeah.
is other neurodiverse conditions don't want to be a part of FASD because
Mm-hmm.
of that stigma.
Mm-hmm.
So we get thrown under the bus in politics.
Yeah.
So a lot of uphill battle, but I'm excited for a number of reasons. You know,
Yeah.
being at the conference most certainly brings some enthusiasm and hope and understanding that things are moving forward. And
Yeah. I think we are nearing the cusp.
I do too.
Yeah.
Having gone through the human trafficking uh, introduction of nobody understanding and then everybody getting on board.
Mm-hmm.
And the piece that I was able to do back then was a public service announcement that got what I'm told went to 90 countries and changed policies in a number of governments because they weren't aware.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been a consideration in this project too, and it
Yeah.
might be in conjunction with the films
Yeah.
public service announcement that helps advertise
Yeah.
on that scale. So that's another layer that takes advertising dollars that will have to come in a different way. So
Yeah. And I think that's part of the genius of the transmedia approach, right? Because we're really going to maximize the audience. You know, we'll find people where they are in so many different places.
yeah, and Carl and I are planning on e-learning to go with those
Mm-hmm.
with each of the topics. So the books will have transition, sensory issues,
Mm-hmm.
perseveration, etc., a list of about 20, and how they apply to social
Yeah.
environments is the first book. And it would be easy to have a half-hour talk.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we'll have to talk about looping you into how do we do a podcast around those and
You
on
know
those.
it.
So all of the channels help.
Yeah.
And they keep moving. And the more of us that are doing that sort of work, uh, the more the needle will go forward. And eventually, we would love to have an app where Zach can teach uh, folks about how to overcome better interventions for impulsivity or memory
Mm-hmm.
issues or whatever that might be.
Mm-hmm.
First, first things first. Let's find the funding for the feature film, which is Zach is our hero who has FASD, but it's really a story of the underdog who saves the day.
Mm-hmm.
It's a feel good story. And
Yeah.
so, in that context, that's easier to find movement forward.
Yeah.
People want that story of the underdog that wins.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, oh, it's all exciting and it's off the whiteboard. We have scripts and books
Oh
and
my gosh.
they're all in the
Yep.
work and it's like,
Yeah.
oh.
That's so awesome. I love it.
So,
So you teased us a little bit by connecting FASD and child trafficking.
hmm.
You want to share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so folks can go to CanFast's website. They're a research um, group conglomerate in Canada. FASD CanFast is the CanFASD is the are the people who wrote that article. And having been part of the human trafficking movement early on, when I saw the research, when I started helping my son and then started doing research, I came across statistics anywhere from 25 to 50% of our prison populations, both men and women, with FASD. I said, oh my goodness, there has to be a connection to human trafficking and the crime that's behind that. And so I was pretty privy to that, but folks can go to CanFast and look up the research paper that they've started. They have more research to do, but the connection is really our kiddos are oftentimes in the foster care system and struggle in schools and identity issues, and the list goes on with those kinds of social skills that are difficult.
Yeah.
And so with that becomes the spiral of homelessness and jobs and the interest in looking for help in the wrong areas. And so that's really the adaptability side of it. So I told somebody not too long ago who was on task for anti-human trafficking, and they had a safe house, and they were talking about, well, homelessness is a major component to human trafficking.
Yeah.
And I said, well, take it one step back. There's mental health that's oftentimes driving, and a big part of that mental health is FASD. That's driving the homelessness.
Yeah. And I know here in California, at least according to FASD now, like, I don't know, 2 years ago, 1/3 of California's homeless population have an FASD.
Yeah.
So it's a significant number.
Yeah. And so when you're homeless, you're looking for income.
Yeah.
And oftentimes that leads to
getting paid to do
things that you don't,
would be would be very risky and get you in jail if you got caught.
Well, that and into being taken advantage of and being held prisoner, if you will.
Yeah.
And you go missing because you don't have family.
Yeah.
And just keep going with where that trajectory.
The other piece of that is, at least for those who were in foster care, which, some studies say 70% of foster kids have an FASD, most of whom are undiagnosed. I know Susan Rich would argue that. She said, for the research I did for my book, I went to Child Welfare League of America, and their stats had substance use being the reason 95% of kids were in care. So where there's drug use, there's usually alcohol use also. Right. So that's a huge percentage. And then you realize that for the most part, foster care ends at 18. But with so many of us with FASD having dysmaturity, that means we're cut loose when we're developmentally 9 or 10.
Yep.
And no 9 or 10-year-old should ever be living alone.
No.
Trying to figure out how to survive on the streets. So.
Yeah, it's the other interview I did was with Dr. Choa out of Canada, out of Calgary, on the social issues. And we talked about the spiral of how one person with an FASD creates a spiral of community issues. And so I'm encouraged, as discouraging as it could be, that there's just this domino effect, one to the other, that we're getting somewhere. We're about to really move the needle towards people understanding and coming to the table to say, I've got a part to play. I want to play a part in any given area. There's hundreds of areas that you can plug into, be it education or social worker or parent advocate or researcher, and the list goes on.
Yeah. Or running marathons.
So that the community knows.
I know.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Have you started planning?
So funny thing, I actually emailed Jen Wisdall this morning at 6 a.m. my time. So it was like 3 a.m. your time. Yeah. Or her time. Yeah. Because it's been on my mind. And I emailed her and I said, look, they just did this whole conference. She's been doing policy. And so, there's been dabbles of stuff about Run Fast, but not really anything. So I emailed her and I was just like, let me know, what you want to do. They've been so swamped. Then I get an email back from Emma. Emma, who is works at FASD United. She's the social media person for Run Fast, or she's going to be. And she reached out to me. She's like, okay, we're going to start doing sponsors in the next couple of weeks and think about who you want to have join you and getting people excited about this. So it's a go. So it's ramping up in the next couple of weeks. So I have to get my game too. So
you should have Justin and the ALC cover that as a documentary.
Oh, I would love that. That's an
Would
awesome
you reach
idea.
out to Justin?
I should. I actually have. I should. That's an awesome idea.
Yeah, because that's a huge part of the ALC. You're part of that.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great idea. I'm excited. I myself have not run in over a year. I have a cyst on my toe. I can walk and stuff, but I stopped running. I still exercise. So I hope to run the Run Fast, but we'll see.
You guys say walk, run, or roll. So
I know.
on,
well,
last
year, it's funny. Last year I ran it. I walked in and ran it with my son and his girlfriend. And then the 2 years before that, I walked it because I'm talking to people and I'm, discussing what FASD is, and we're discussing life. And there's families that come to my community that it's not a big turnout, but it's 15 people and there's like 2 families. So it's great. Yeah. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what happens.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm going to go look for your email. I've got some ideas here that.
Oh, you're so awesome. Yeah. But overall, it was amazing. And just, I don't know, seeing people that you can, and Patti, you and I have talked about this, that get you. And it's amazing.
It's powerful.
It is. And just the young.
It would be like for Joel, it would be, spending time with another parent.
Yeah.
Who gets him. Right.
Because right.
For the most part, the people in our worlds, they don't understand whether we're the person living with it or whether we're the supportive parent.
Right.
No.
Yeah, and I had opportunity to talk with a number of people on a one-to-one level that were caregivers, they were community advocates, and it's really important to know. The first person who sat next to me was Judge Michael Jeffries, who I had an eye on for several years to film. And I wish it would have worked out to the timing for him in this regard, but a community advocate who gets it and understands it, right? Yeah. So
did the ALC present their second survey, their lay of the land on quality of life?
I don't remember hearing that.
Oh, okay.
I don't. they presented, and I'm horrible. They presented something I think that was supposed to be presented prior to 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And
I may not have been in that session. I can pull out
I
my.
know, and I want to
Oh.
say maybe they did because it sounds so familiar.
We may
And
be
this just sounds
quoting wrong.
horrible because I feel like I was in it and I should remember, but
Well, and I may have missed that session, so
Yeah.
I think they
let me
did
look at the agenda, and it may very well have happened. So,
Well, but it
Yeah.
sounds as though neither one of
I
you
missed
are
it
going to be
before.
able to tell me about it.
No.
no, we will not. So let's just go there.
Yeah, we'll just
Sorry.
take this part out.
I've got the whole packet here, but
That's so thick.
Oh my gosh, they had so many things to collect.
yeah, and they have the original, well, there are two other pieces. They have the original study that was done with Anne Streiskuth.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
So there's two other, I don't know if you can see the thickness of that.
Yeah.
Um, so those are to nighttime, bedtime reading.
That's awesome.
Yeah, right.
I do not have those.
I do take time to, just given what I'm up to, that I do take time, but the agenda, I may have missed it, so I apologize
Yeah.
if they
No, I
had
apologize
rolled
too
that
because I
out.
don't know if I was in on it or if I missed it. So
I'm just trying to learn as much vicariously as I can, right? So-
I think they have some of the stuff on they recorded a lot of it. It's on the FASD United site.
okay.
Yep.
All
Yep.
right. Then I will check
Good,
out
good resource, Rebecca.
fasdunited.org and see how much is available and put in the show notes,
I
point
think they
people
were
that
going to do
way.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was really hoping that I could be there and I could do my podcast live. That would have been so
That would
awesome.
have been amazing. But next year, or you'll
Maybe
get
next
it.
time. Maybe
Yeah.
next time. After Mama passes. I can't go anywhere. I'm landlocked. Stuck in Bakersfield.
Well, she appreciates it though.
Yes, that she does. That she does.
You know, that's a lot on you. I know. At times,
So,
right?
well, it just keeps me from going and having the fun that you guys just had.
It's exhausting too.
Because I
I'm
love going to
exhausted tonight.
conferences, right? I interviewed, the
Long.
72-year-old Neil. I interviewed him just a few weeks ago, and he was saying how he was he described himself as a conference junkie, and I like to nerd
I
out.
love conferences, but I can't afford to go to them.
Yes.
I University of Rochester, Chrissy Petrenko, her department helped me this time
That's
because
awesome.
I was in a documentary with her that needed to be finished filming.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
That's
it's
awesome.
expensive. Like
Yeah.
yeah, airfare, and unless you could drive, I would love to have one in Albany, New York, but yeah, that's not gonna happen.
That's actually maybe even a good idea, is to move it around.
Oh, I would
Yeah.
love that.
One year it would be West Coast, the next year
East
Right, West
Coast.
Coast, East Coast.
Mhm.
yeah, and
Mid-
maybe South and maybe
And
North.
then Midwest.
Yeah, because
Mhm.
it would be easy to do it at the Mall of America
Yeah.
here in Minnesota, and
Mhm.
there's so many hotels to pick from for different cost aspects. There's entertainment, family,
Yeah.
there's shuttles right there by the airport,
Yeah.
all those kinds of things.
And
But
Minnesota is such a hotbed of FASD support, right?
Oh, it
So
is.
yeah.
it is, and even so, I mean, to their own, uh, when they advocate, as much as we are in the front, I don't know that they use those words, but it's still so much more is needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
For
know,
sure.
so having it at the Mall of America is just another way to spread the awareness in a more
Yeah.
public space,
Yeah.
as opposed to a hotel. which is, this isn't criticism by any means, it's just a thought that would be move it around and put it in more public spaces.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
And they'll get different people that don't attend. One will attend the other due to proximity.
Yeah. And, you know, I have to say kudos to everyone involved in the planning, because I know how much work that takes. Years ago, I put together a reunion of client families who got their service dogs from the same company I did. I had reached out to just the people living in and around Pittsburgh to say, hey, I'm going to be there such and such a weekend for my nephew's wedding. You know, do you want to meet up? And next thing I know, I was organizing a reunion of 30 families from across the country. And I was making all the arrangements and reservations from Bakersfield for restaurants in Pittsburgh.
Oh my gosh.
Hotels, and you know, it's an enormous amount of work. And you know, I know most of the ALCs in Canada, not in Seattle. So it was that, and FASD United again, they're in Washington. So that was an enormous amount of work, and they are to be praised.
Oh my goodness, it was remarkable. So yeah, and the suggestions I have are not criticism by any means. It's just somebody that, you know, you're going to have 600
it's
people.
Items for a wish list.
Yeah, all in time, but it does make sense that they would be at some point in more public spaces so that the awareness is more visible just by having the conference, like at the Mall of America or at a convention. I don't know what it would be, but elsewhere, I just know from Minnesota, Mall of America is a go-to. I've been in my past life doing all my advertising. I would constantly be on planes, and people were coming from all over the world as I was flying back from Seattle to the Mall of America. They had flown over from Japan. You know, you're flying back from the East Coast, and people were coming to the Mall of America from Germany.
Oh yeah, I've been to Minnesota to the proof conferences, and or MoFast when I was MoFast, but I still have yet to go to Mall of America. I haven't been. I stay in the hotel.
Yeah, well, it's just a thought. And my wife is taking some time off for the Proof Alliance Caregiver Conference. It'll be their second year.
I know that's in May. Yep.
So, and I'll probably catch a few more interviews. I was able to get Dr. Desmore out of Vancouver when he was here, and Nate Sheets.
So just finished his book. Oh my! I read it on the way to Seattle.
Isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
I was hoping he'd be there, but he was at another conference in Canada somewhere, I think.
Yeah. Well, he's one of many who probably says maybe next time. Yeah. Well, thank you both so much for taking the time. You know, I was very eager to get something recorded, you know, before people started forgetting about all the highlights and their takeaways. And, you know, once you get back to normal life, that becomes your focus, right? Is getting reacclimated to all the normal duties and responsibilities and all that stuff. So
well, and there's the time change, and you know, Tuesday or Wednesday afternoon, I had prearranged some Zoom calls with our congressman here in Minnesota that FASD joined on. We had two this week, and one was earlier from the conference, and you could tell all of us just dragging,
low energy.
Oh my goodness, it was super low energy, and today's was much higher. Trying to get the Respect Act. There's no
Yeah.
time to sleep.
We
No time to sleep. So
yeah.
but
Yeah,
there
because
is. I've got this whole packet to go through, right?
yeah.
And
I went
that's
through
going
mine.
to
That
take a
mine is
while.
not as full as that, and I went through mine. I'm like, I think I threw out a lot of it because I was like, oh yeah, I don't really know what this is.
Well, you do have to have a
I'm
context of what that's for.
wondering.
Yeah, you do. You absolutely have to have a context for what that sheet of information was related to, or it's just another sheet
I
that.
didn't collect a ton. I talked to a lot of people, but yeah, it was cool though. It was fun.
It'll take a while to sort out.
Yes.
I had to put my mic on mute so I could yell at the dogs to shut up.
I know. I just heard a bark.
Oh, I think their friend Kiko came down to play.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, the courtyard at our little condo complex has become a dog park.
Oh, fun.
I love
That's,
it. That's
that's fun.
perfect.
Anyway, I'm really grateful that you guys both
Thank
took the
you for
time
asking.
to, yeah. So, this will go out on Monday. So,
Woohoo! Look at you.
yeah. Um, Now, one new thing since the last time each of you were on is that I now have a Patreon account, which supports creators. So that way, if people want to join, they can go to patreon.com/living with FASD podcast and become part of the community.
Oh wow.
And that's free,
Okay.
but you can also, there's 3 levels for monthly financial support at $5, $10, or $15. So even at the $15 level, that's cheaper than 1 cup of coffee every week, right? Because
I
that
know.
would, so very affordable, but it all adds up to help with the production costs. So
That's amazing. Okay.
so yeah. Anyway, so patreon.com/living with FASD podcast. And as
Okay.
part of that, I want to give a shout out to my first 2 supporters. And that would be Antonia Lindsay and Jody Culp. So
Awesome.
yeah. So that's pretty exciting. And hopefully we'll see some decent amount of support coming in for the costs of the podcast. So
Well, you've been involved in helping with embracing Zach and
yeah.
Jody. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Jody took the story that I wrote a couple of years ago that was a school story to apply for a grant, and she helped me. And then earlier, 6 months ago or so, said, "Hey, can I snag that story?" And it's like she was calling you and me and a bunch of other folks daily or weekly and giving input on that. So it's been a joint collaborative effort. And so she is a hero for all of us, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Supporting. I get donations once in a while. When she's been donating, got hundreds of thousands of dollars of her time over the years. If you were to add a professional, right? So kudos to Jody and Red Shoes Rocks, right?
Yeah. So we have formed a collaborative with 4 of us women. We're all going to be polishing each other's book. So Sip by Sip is coming out in its 2nd edition, polished up. She agreed with me. I didn't get much bang for my buck with the first one. She said, "I hate to tell you this, Patty, but you got ripped off."
Oh.
So she said, "I'll make it what it should have been all along." I said, "Okay, thank you."
Oh.
But with that, come on, Jock. The dog just said, "Come on, let's go. Time for a walk." He yanked the earbud out of my ear. But it'll be expanded with a couple more interviews, and I'll be updating the research and the statistics in it. So, and I'm not sure what all direction she's going to have me stretch myself, but then as soon as that's out, or as soon as it's done, then I'm going to do the audiobook.
That's good.
So,
That's great.
And then I get to tackle a brand new topic with my next one. So,
Yeah. That's
Cool.
awesome.
Anyway, no rest for the weary, eh?
Hey.
So,
And your other Patreon is at the Antonio that's been part of your collaborative. That's awesome.
yeah, she's amazing. She is a art therapist. She's been in the FASD field for 30 years. I think she's the best kept secret from that first cohort of researchers and clinicians. She's just phenomenal, and she thinks in pictures. So the way she, you know how we are with abstract concepts, it's really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I think neurotypical people struggle to understand why we struggle with abstract concepts. So Antonia's word pictures really help everybody.
Well, if you didn't know this, Jody, when she journals in pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, really beautiful. And she's an artist. So
Yeah.
really, really fun to look at her,
Yeah.
Oh my
her pieces.
goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Jody and I go back a ways because she's just less than 10 miles away.
Oh my
And,
goodness.
and when I was starting out with interviews, everyone here in the Minneapolis area, Twin Cities area, oh, you got to meet Jody. Oh, you got to meet Jody. And finally we meet. We hit it off like two high school buddies, right?
Yeah.
And so pre-COVID, she was helping ideate on all sorts of what's now coming about. So it's as much her project as mine in a lot of ways. So
she's phenomenal.
yeah, yeah. And when I told her what we were going to be up to with this documentary or what I was thinking, she got out a map, drew her picture, drew the United States, and said, well, this person's here, this person's here, this person's here. These are all pioneers that you need to talk to. We've gotten it was just I think I still have the map. I was looking over to see if it was on a whiteboard. But anyway, Jody is most certainly a pioneer
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
In this area, and most certainly is part of, or should be part of, the ALC, right? So as well. So don't let the diagnosis define you.
Right. Right.
She's high energy, high capacity. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And I think most of us are, right? I mean, we keep going. We're all Energizer bunnies. We have a lot on our plates and we keep going anyway.
Can I address one last thing before we go?
Sure.
Concept, abstract.
Yes.
One of the questions at dinner that I asked Dr. Desmore was, we need to distinguish between abstract reasoning, which we struggle with, as opposed to abstract expression. Because those with FASD are remarkable at creative expression. Abstract expression. And so how do you distinguish those two? So hopefully somebody who's a researcher can hear this question, because I don't have an answer yet.
That's a good question.
Yeah. Yeah, that is good. That sounds like the topic for another episode.
Maybe I'll have more information by then.
All right.
Anyway, thank you.
So I can't believe the hour has disappeared. In fact, we've been probably a little over an hour, but thank you both.
Thank you.
I hope everyone tunes in again next week. In the meantime, please, if you're watching this on Spotify or YouTube, like it, subscribe, share, whatever. The more the word gets out, the more people that are going to learn about FASD and understand it, and the faster the needle's going to move. So, and if you feel so inclined, come on over to patreon.com/livingwithfasd and help me pay for all these production costs. I'm certainly not going to get rich, right? Rebecca and I learned the hard way.
Yeah.
There's no
Nope.
getting rich from writing books.
Nope.
I don't know what we were thinking.
It was a free counseling session for myself. I counseled myself as I wrote. It was very cathartic.
Anyway, everyone, thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure seeing you guys.
Yes. All right.
Congratulations again. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I wish we had touched base, but next time.
Next time.
Okay.
All right, guys. I got to run.
Take care. Bye-bye.